Hi friends, welcome back. Today we are going to paint a super special little painting for a friend of mine. To be really honest, I haven't fully fleshed it out yet, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be just this little 12 by 12 canvas board, and it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really cute. It's going to be a great gift from a great friend, and we'll see how it goes. This one's a little bit more seedy or pantsy. Let's go. Like I said, this painting is for a very good friend of mine. Actually, it's for two very good friends of mine. And they always really have been big fans of my art. They've always been some of the people who have really pushed me to stay in art and to continue to make things even when it's been stressful or hard, or when I have wanted to quit or anything like that. Even with my constant change of medium from writing to painting to whatever else I've done at any given time, they've always been some of the people that have just pushed me to remain creative in whatever capacity, and I'm really thankful for that. I'm really thankful to have them as friends. So almost every year I make them a painting, and this year is no different. So I am getting a little bit ahead on my Christmas gift giving stuff. Not giving, but Christmas gift making, I suppose. So this year I decided, and I'm pretty sure they're just going to see this video, and I also decided that that's just not going to be a problem, because they're also going to come to my house and they're probably going to see it. So, not a huge deal. Anyway, this year I decided that I was going to go ahead and start on painting Christmas gifts a little bit earlier than I usually do. A lot of the time I don't start until mid-November, and I have the ideas figured out before then, but I don't start on them until sometime in November. And I realize I'm not that far ahead of November, but it's still October, so it counts. And I had the gumption on this particular evening to sit down and work on this painting, and honestly just to knock it out in a single day. So I decided to just do it, and there was no reason for me to wait on it or to sit on it and do it closer to the holidays. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't have the gumption to work on the sea dragon painting. So this one was a nice little break and a nice little change of pace. And I think it was just what I needed at the time. And I'm really hoping that my friends like it as much as I do. And I'm also hoping you guys like it, because, spoiler alert, I've seen how it looks in the end and it's adorable. So far I am just working on the background. So I've done a few different greens that I've kind of smudged all over the canvas, and then I am adding some kind of rough plant-like shapes. I did one legitimate plant shape on the right of the canvas, and then I'm just kind of doing splotches and shapes that look like plants but don't look like super clear plants, like you can tell what they are or anything like that. I wanted the background layers to be something that wouldn't draw your eye at all, so it's a lot of just the same colors, just so that it's not going to draw any attention. It's not going to be something that you really notice. What I want you to look at is the midground and the foreground. I want the background to just completely melt away into this little sea of green, basically. And then we're going to start on the badger, and this was a little bit scary for me. I do not generally paint critters at this scale. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I tend to do them quite a bit smaller than this. I actually haven't done a critter this large in a couple of years, I think. The last time that I tried, it was a fox, and I didn't love my reference photo. It was kind of a funky angle that I was painting, and at the time it wasn't an angle that I was very proficient in painting. So I think in a lot of ways that turned me off from doing larger scale wildlife paintings. But for this one, I really wanted the badger to be the big thing, like the main focal point. I didn't want to do a full scene. I didn't really have any interest in doing a big landscape or anything like that. This wasn't a painting that was going to really fit into the series. This was a painting that I was doing specifically for some friends of mine, and so it didn't need to fit into anything else. It didn't need to have this background of trees and extra plants and hills and a really fun sky or anything like that. It just needed to be a painting of a badger. And honestly, because I don't normally paint things at this scale, I think that that's going to make it extra special for my friends, because they've seen all of my art, and I know that they're going to look at it and think, oh, she doesn't normally do this. That's really special. I'm super excited to see their thoughts on it. I'm pretty sure I already said that, but you know. So badgers are interesting because you kind of think of them as being just black and white because that's what their face is. And in a lot of ways that does make them a little bit easier to paint at this size, because straight up, their face is just black and white. But then their back is a really interesting mottled color. It's got gray, black, white, a little bit of brown. I didn't end up actually putting any brown on this one. It didn't seem to go. I did look at adding it, and it looked wrong. So I didn't do it. I think the last time I did a badger, there was a little bit of brown on him, but not a lot. But because I'm doing him at this size, I get to spend a lot of time really honing the details and really thinking about like fur texture and getting the color blocking exactly right, because they do have a very specific black and white pattern to their adorable little faces. And so I had to really think and really focus on how to get that in correctly. So they have like little black eyes that are in the black stripes, and I know that I do paint them at some point, but I don't know if you can super tell that they're there. And that's how they look. It is difficult to see their eyes, but I find myself really pleased with how the eyes turned out, with just getting to sit down and take the time to really look at my reference photo and really get to perfect how I put in each individual detail into the painting. It was really fun. It was a challenge, and I think that doing a badger at this size was a little bit easier than if I had gone with something like a fox, where there are a lot of different colors, and foxes have kind of a more interesting ear shape, and they're a little more angular, where badgers are, I often refer to them as just little lumps. He's just a little lump. He's a lump. I mean, how else do you describe that? He's a little lump in a sea of green. And so that did make it a little bit easier for this particular painting because, again, it's a scale that I don't normally do. And I think this is just going to be a really special painting to give to my friends. Again, they've been my friends for a really long time. And we didn't meet like super early. I had a lot of friends in elementary and high school, but then we lived in a small town, and so we all immediately left that small town for college, and the majority of us went our own ways and never really saw each other after that. And so I didn't really have many friends going into college. And then I met these two, and they've just always been kind of permanent fixtures in my life since then. And I love being able to bless them with things like this little badger painting, or they're the ones that I painted their dogs last year and stuff like that. Like, I love getting to use my artistic talents to create things specifically for them. I think that it's one of the really special things that we as artists get to do, is that we get to know people and then create something with them in mind, and create something that we know is going to be loved and cherished, because we're making it for someone who we know is going to love and cherish it as much as we love and cherish those people, if that makes any sense at all. So again, I spend a lot of time just working on the fur texture and getting the transition between the black and the white to be exactly correct, because obviously it's not just a stark line between the black and the white. You have to have a little bit of black on the white side and a little bit of white on the black side, but if you go too far, now it looks weird. So I spent a decent chunk of time just going back and forth between what parts should be black and what parts should be white, and where should I have extra little furs and where shouldn't I have extra little furs. And then, because I had painted the whole canvas green to begin with, making sure I have enough white down on the badger to cover all the green. Really wish I had thought of that beforehand, but at the same time, I think it makes more sense in a lot of ways to just paint your whole canvas and then put your figure on afterward. And if it takes a few more layers of paint, then it takes a few more layers of paint. I don't think it's really that big a deal. Sometimes, depending on what you're painting and how big the scale is, it is definitely easier to not paint your whole canvas a specific color. The big thing that comes to mind is clouds. If you're wanting very white clouds, just leave the canvas. Don't put any color down. Let that white be white, and then you can put white paint on it and make a cloud. But there are no clouds in this painting. There is only a badger. A very cute badger. And so now, because I haven't painted the bottom half of the badger, really, and I honestly had no intention of painting the bottom half of the badger, I am adding in a bunch more plant life that is just going to block the front of the badger, so that now what becomes like the most foreground thing is plants. And this is very much based on my reference photo. And honestly, that's part of why I picked this particular reference photo. It isn't a way that I generally paint. I don't always put a lot of plants in front of my figure. And so I thought that this would be something of a challenge, and it would also be a really fun practice of doing more deliberate plant shapes. I don't know when this happened, but I kind of stopped doing a lot of actual plant shapes, and I started just doing a lot of grass, a lot of sticks, a lot of twigs, a lot of trees, but I wasn't really doing bushes or things with distinct leaves or anything like that. And I certainly wasn't doing anything that was supposed to look like a flower. And so I really wanted to kind of make myself do something along those lines with this canvas. So I'm starting with just painting a bunch of grasses in, and then as you can see, as I've already done, I'm adding a bunch of leaves to those grasses. And that's blocking a decent chunk of where you should be able to see the bottom half of the badger. And what I'm trying to do is make it look like you can't see his paws and you can't see the other half of his hindquarters because he's standing in a field of plants, and so the bulk of his body is actually hidden from view because there's a bunch of plants in the way. And again, that basically matches my reference photo, and I'm not doing the kind of plants that are in the reference photo. I'm doing my own plants. I'm doing my own thing. The reference photo is an actual photo. And so I had looked up a bunch of reference photos of badgers, and this was the one that I found that had really spoken to me and given me this idea of, well, what if I just paint a badger on a canvas and it's not a scene that has a badger in it? What if it's just a painting of a badger? I think they would love that. And it was really fun to get to do something that I don't generally do in a lot of different ways, because again, I normally do landscapes, so the background is a thing. I normally do landscapes, so my figures are a lot smaller. I normally do landscapes, so my plant shapes are a lot smaller or are just grasses and are not super detailed like this. And that, honestly, I think that's going to make this a really special gift to give to my friends. I really think that they're going to like this. I think that it's going to be just a really fun and really different thing for them this year, because it's not a fox. It's not their dogs. It's a style of painting that I don't normally do, but a figure that I know that they're really going to like. And yeah, I'm really excited to get to give this one. I am, if you couldn't tell, pretty darn tired after a day of getting this painting done. But I'm really excited to see how this turned out. I really love it. I think this was just what I needed to paint today. And those are often the most special pieces because they're the thing that can get you out of a rut and remind you that you are a good artist and you can do this. And the next time you look at that sea dragon canvas, you go, right, I am a good artist. I can sketch a sea dragon. See what I did there? See how I'm not super nervous about painting that sea dragon? This was a good win for me, and I hope that you guys really like it. I absolutely love this painting. I cannot wait for Christmas to get here so that I can give it to my friends and see the looks on their faces when they see this absolutely adorable little badger, because my goodness, I think he's one of the cutest things I have ever painted in my life. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in a couple weeks, hopefully with a sea dragon. Bye! Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more chill videos with art.